You're walking down the street. Two strangers start shouting at each other. Your feet stop moving before your brain even decides to stop them. You tell yourself to keep walking. You don't. Something older than your manners has already taken over. But the real answer for why you froze is far stranger than simple curiosity. Your eyes lock into the conflict. Your breathing slows. Your heart rate actually drops for a moment, even though you might expect it to spike. This isn't rudeness. It isn't morbid fascination either, at least not in the way you've been told. It's a survival circuit that has been running in human brains for hundreds of thousands of years, and it switches on the instant you sense danger nearby, even danger that has nothing to do with you. Think about the last time you saw an argument escalate. Maybe it was online, a common thread spiraling out of control. Maybe it was in a parking lot. Two drivers stepping out of their cars you didn't choose to watch. You just did. And so did everyone else nearby. A small crowd formed, almost instantly, without anyone agreeing to gather. Why does this happen every single time, across every culture, in every era of recorded history? To understand this, you have to go back, not just decades, not just centuries. You just have to go back to a time before cities, before writing, before agriculture, to small bands of humans moving across open landscapes, completely exposed, with no walls and no police and no hospitals. In that world, information about conflict was the most valuable information there was. A fight between two members of your group wasn't just drama, it was data. Who is allied with whom? Who is willing to use violence and who backs down? Who might turn on you next? Missing this information could mean missing a shift in the group that determined whether you ate tonight, or whether you were protected tomorrow, or even whether you were suddenly alone. Your ancestors who paid close attention to conflict survived more often than the ones who looked away. Over tens of thousands of generations, that attention became automatic. It stopped being a choice, it became wiring. This is where the psychologist Daniel Kahneman work becomes useful. Even though he wasn't studying fights directly, Kahneman described two systems of thinking. One is fast, automatic, emotional, and the other is slow, deliberate, and effortful. When you see a conflict begin, system one takes over almost instantly. Your slow, rational brain doesn't get evoked until several seconds later, by which point you're already staring. Notice that there's a second layer to this, and it's even stranger. Researchers studying attention have found that human visual system is tuned to detect motion and emotional expression faster than almost anything else in the environment. A 1997 study by Anderson and Phillips found that patients with damage to a brain region called the amygdala lost the ability to quickly detect fearful faces in a crowd of neutral ones. Everyone else could spot a fearful face from almost instantly, faster than they could spot a happy one. The amygdala, you've probably heard the word before, usually attached to fight or flight. It's a small almond shaped cluster of neurons sitting deep into your brain. And one of its main jobs is threat detection. It doesn't wait for permission, it doesn't wait for you to finish your sentence or your thoughts. It fires first, and your conscious mind catches up afterwards. So when two people start arguing nearby, your amygdala has already flagged it as relevant before you've processed a single word of what they're saying. Here's the part that feels uncomfortable. This isn't just about other people's fights, it's about yours too. Have you ever been mid argument with someone, maybe a partner, maybe a sibling, and you felt your whole body lean into it? Your voice gets louder, your words get sharper. Part of you knows you should walk away and cool down. But another part of you, an older part, doesn't want to disengage. Disengaging to that older part can feel like losing. This is sometimes described using what researchers call the audience effect. Multiple studies, including work summarized by social psychologist Robert Cialdini, have shown that people behave differently, often more aggressively, when they know that they are being watched, especially during conflict. The presence of an audience raises the stakes. Backing down in front of witnesses doesn't just feel like losing an argument, it feels like a public demotion. Now, connect back to the crowd that gathers around a street argument. Every person who stops to watch isn't just an observer. To the people fighting, each onlooker is a tiny adjustment to the social calculation happening in real time. More eyes, higher stakes, harder to back down. And the crowd doesn't fully realize the role it's playing. Most people watching think that they're curious bystanders, but on some level, ancient and unspoken, they're a part of the event itself. There's a modern mirror of all of this, and you've probably scrolled past it today. So, online platforms are, in a sense, an infinite hallway of arguments you can watch without even ever being seen. No physical risk, no social cost, just the threat detection circuitry of your brain, firing exactly the way it did on the open savannah. Except now it's responding to two strangers arguing in a comment section, of course, about something that will be forgotten in 48 hours. Researchers studying online behavior have found that posts expressing moral outrage or conflict get significantly more engagement, more shares, more lingering attention than neutral posts. A study led by William Brady at Yale found that the presence of moral emotion language in political messages substantially increased how far those messages spread on social media. The mechanism isn't mysterious once you trace it back. Conflict equals relevance. Relevance equals attention, and attention equals survival. Or at least it used to. Your brain hasn't been told that the stakes have changed. As far as your amygdala is concerned, a heated exchange between two strangers online might just as be as important as confrontation happening 3 feet away from you in the wild. So the volume is different. The wiring is identical. This raises an uncomfortable question. If your attention is being pulled by circuitry built for a world that no longer exists, who benefits from that? Algorithms don't need to understand psychology to exploit it. They just need to notice what keeps people watching, and conflict reliability does. Every time you pause on an argument online or in person, you're reinforcing a pattern that was already ancient before recorded history began. But here's the twist that changes how you might think about all of this. The same circuitry that makes you stare at conflict is also, in its original form, a circuitry of caution. Your ancestors weren't watching fights for entertainment, they were watching to learn, to assess danger, to decide their next move. The attention itself wasn't the problem, it was protective. The problem only emerges when that attention is detached from any useful action. When you can watch but not help, when you can absorb the tension of a conflict but never resolve it, never learn from it, never use the information for anything except more watching, that's the strange position you're in every time you scroll past an argument and feel your chest tightening slightly. Your scrolling slow down, your thumb hover. Your brain thinks it's gathering crucial survivor information. In reality, it's gathering nothing. There's no group to navigate, no alliance to track, no danger to avoid. Just the feeling of importance with none of the function. So the next time you find yourself frozen on a sidewalk, watching two strangers argue, or pause mid scroll on a heated exchange you have no stake in, you might notice something. You're not being nosy. You're not weak willed. You're running code that kept your ancestors alive for a quarter of a million years. Code that has no idea it's alive for a quarter of a million years. Code that has no idea it's being run in a world made of screens and strangers still will never meet. You're walking down the street, two strangers start shouting at each other, your feet stop moving before your brain even decides to stop them, and maybe now you understand exactly why.